Welcome to Visibility Unlimited. I'm Leslie Short, your host and owner of the Cavu Group. We work with companies and organizations to expand beyond their current culture. Visibility Unlimited discusses topics focusing on diversity, inclusion, leadership, culture, and current events. Look out for my book, Expand Beyond Your Current Culture, out January 2021. Enjoy this episode and remember to subscribe to stay updated on future podcasts. Our discussion for today will be on ally fatigue. Rumor has it, people are getting tired. Can you imagine that? Well, buckle up, folks. We have a long way to go.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us here July 22nd, 2020 for webinar number 14. The title of this webinar is Ally Fatigue, and rumor has it people are getting tired. In this discussion, we'll be talking about what's the difference between an ally, an advocate, a champion. Also be asking questions around diversity fatigue, inclusion fatigue, race fatigue. And I say it in that way because it sounds like a lot of people are getting tired of having those words brought up. So again, the rules still stand each week. If you have a question, definitely put it in the chat. So Leslie or I can see it and call upon you. And with that being said, again, I want to thank you for joining us here on webinar number 14, and I'll hand it over to Leslie to get started.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. I see a few new names, so I'm just going to say I'm Leslie from the Cavu Group. I work with companies and organizations to expand beyond their current culture, which means a whole lot at this moment. So I picked this title because, yes, if I'm hearing that people are really tired and that they're tired of being an ally, and when are we going to get there? And if you saw one of my posts, it was like we were in the back of the car riding somewhere, and it's like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Like, it's been 5 weeks. Shouldn't all of this be done? Are we still on Black Lives Matter? Can we move on now? So, yeah, no, we're not there yet. Just in case anyone on here wanted that quick, short answer. We are not here yet. We are not there yet. I don't know what there is at this moment. But trust me, we did not get to our destination. So what does that mean then, if ally fatigue? Do you even know what an ally is at this point? If you're already tired from being an ally, and everyone loves to throw this word around, ally. I'm your ally. I'm your ally. And I guess that means that you're an ally for a week. I don't know. Ally because the news story that came out the other day, that now that everyone's marched, what we're going to do now? What's the systemic changes we're going to make? So let's just take a moment to talk about, and I know I've spoken about this before, but so that we're on the same page moving forward. The difference between a champion, an advocate, and an ally. So these are my definitions. A champion is someone that brings you up in a room when you're not there and just say, hey, have you thought about so-and-so for this project? Or we should discuss that. That's their expertise. Like, they just make sure that your expertise are in the room. That advocate walks into the room is like, here's a project, is like, heck no, don't you know? We already did that and so runs that already and they need to be in this room? Or why is this lacking? There's someone that just really looks at it a little bit larger and just says, we need to make sure these people are there. An ally doesn't walk into the room and go, who's missing? The ally walks in and goes, okay, here's how this is going to work. This is the people we need. This is what we're going to do. And they push it and move it forward. Not because they won an award for it or are asking, are we there yet? But because in their DNA, They are there to make sure that there is equity, which for me equals access, to move into these spaces. So they're not going to it's not going to be an option whether or not you're part of the conversation. They're going to make sure you're part of the conversation. They're going to make sure you're part of the program. So if everyone's tired of being an ally, where are we going to go? So stop calling yourself an ally then. Stop trying to jump in. Be a champion, be an advocate, or just come and be and keep it moving. But stop using, oh my God, I'm an ally, I'm an ally, I'm an ally. And I'm like, that's great. What are you doing? They go, oh, but I marched. Okay. How are we going to turn that into something else? And they go, no, but I marched. And they want to keep telling you what they did, but it's not the systemic change of movement. And I want to be very clear. If you march, then that's who you are. I am fine with that. I am not the marcher. You all have heard me say that. I figure out how I use my talents and my gifts in different ways. And that is what I want from people to do. But if you're shouting that you're an ally, which number one, I don't believe you call yourself an ally. I believe that an allyship is pinned on you. That means I see you doing the work consistently. You're doing the work when I don't even know you're doing the work. You're in it, whatever it is. I'm not talking right or Black Lives Matter. I'm talking an ally. And someone, yes.
Hey, just a quick question for you. If you could go back and not necessarily go back, but if you could explain, because it sounds like when we speak about, a champion, an advocate, an ally, it sounds like there's almost like a tiered system, a ranking system to get to those points. At least in my head, that's how I visualize it. And so I guess the question I would have, if you could explain like what makes someone a champion, not just walk into a room saying, but like what can we as individuals do to better position ourselves to move into one of these slots that we're comfortable in?
I think a champion realizes something is not right, that something is missing, and that they know that there is someone or something that can fill that spot. And they make sure that people know they share that knowledge. That's a champion. They're like someone that's like, hey, I know something is great. I know that person. Let me connect you to that person. That's a champion, right? So you have that champion that's going to, don't get mad at me. Be a cheerleader for that cause a bit, because I hate when someone says a cheerleader, but they're a cheerleader for that cause. They have information, they're going to share it, right? And it's for that moment. An advocate, there is a mission or a cause that they are very passionate about, and they are going to make sure that whatever they do, if they have something that can plug into that to advance that cause, they're going to make sure that that happens. Okay, are those two clear for the moment?
Yes.
Then that ally wakes up and it's like, let's rock. How I'm gonna make all changes? How do I do everything and connect it? They don't think about it. They're just automatically going about and doing it. It's part of their DNA. It's part of their thought process throughout the day. It's always, how do I advance things? And then when we see that, and I say we as a collective to anyone that's doing that type of work, whatever that work is, you're like, wow, there's a different level of commitment that you bring to this project, bring to this space. And thank you for that. I see you. I appreciate your commitment. And so that's allyship, where it's no matter who's looking, they're not looking for press, they're not looking for a check. They are looking to honestly make it better. If they have the power and privilege to advance a cause, they will do that. All right. But we use allyship as almost like, I'm going to be your friend. I'm your friend now. So what's the difference? And I see some smiles, because don't you have a whole lot of new friends right now? Let's be honest. Everybody want to be your friend. Where were you 5 weeks ago? We weren't texting back and forth at the beginning of the pandemic. You know, you had your friends that was checking on you. So now, if you are, if you want to have that allyship, I need to see you do the work. You want to be my friend, that's a different thing. You want to be a champion, you decide that this is something that's important to you. You want to be an advocate, you decide that this is something that's part of your life. You want to be an ally, this is the DNA of your life. You go out there, and you know we have some that join us each week. I I give them credit. They are there. They're there when I see them. They're there when I don't see them. Maybe speaking of seeing people. So that's the difference. So now we have a whole lot of folks that's jumped in. Is like ally, until we go and they're like, oh my god, now I'm tired. Oh my god, I didn't know this was going to be this hard. Oh, I'm supposed to keep talking about this? Oh, my bad. Oh, you want to come to my house for dinner? Oh, ooh. Pandemic. We're getting together soon. So it's it's how when I used to say when I worked in entertainment, and the rappers used to be like, yo, I got you. I learned very quickly to say, yo, how do you have me? Because I learned quick how they have me and how I thought they should have me is not the same way. So let's talk about that. So if you are inclusion fatigue, my God, we have to still include everyone? Aren't we all one? No. Okay, diversity. But aren't we all diverse? We are all diverse, but there is a difference of diversity. How about race fatigue? Oh my God, why are we still talking about black and white? I got that today. Aren't there other people? Yeah, there's a whole lot of other people, 100%. Who said we were only speaking about black and white? I said the conversation at this moment is about Black Lives Matter. When I speak to you about race, I'm speaking about everyone. When we started this conversation, there was an issue with Asians. If you know me, when I say diversity, gender, race, LGBTQ plus, and disabilities, sight seen and unseen. So you want to have a real conversation, let's go at it. But if you want to cherry pick how you want race to be at this moment, black and white, that's your decision how you're seeing it. To have the conversation with me, we're going to roll it back a bit. But now you're tired of having the conversation on race. I spoke today with a group of ERGs, and I'm just like, you're not D&I people. And they're like, no, we're not, but we're being forced to be. And I said, but do you know what the conversation you're having? Can you have a conversation on race? Or are you too tired to have that kind of conversation? Do you want to speak about inclusion? Oh, you're tired about that? We already had this webinar. You want to belong. So whenever we get tired of something, we change the terminology, right? So now everybody want to belong. No, a belonging is a group. I want my voice to be heard. I want to be included in decision making. I want to be able to sign a check to be included. There's things I want to be included in. Okay. So now let's go to, for a second, we were speaking about all this ally fatigue and all this other thing. We've gotten so tired, we can't even say Black, Indigenous, or people of color. We now have to shorten this. You know how I feel about this. Now, what are we now? BIPOC. No, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. And someone asked me today, well, why can't we use that? Yes. I see a question coming. I see a question coming.
No, it's interesting because it sparked something for me to ask. Like, who are the people coming up with these terminologies? You know what I mean? Because I know the people I hang around with, and we definitely don't sit around thinking on how we could, bring different nomenclature into the conversation on how to describe ourselves. So I'm just interesting. I'm just interested to see. Anybody can step in and ask and answer the question if they have the answer to it. But like this BIPOC that came about, and like other things. Sure.
I'll start. I believe it came about. I'm never offensive, but I'm a straight shooter. Because white folks got tired of saying Black Lives Matter, don't like to use the word black. and they want to shorten it all up and lose all identity physically possible to keep it moving to make themselves comfortable. Now, I'm more than happy to hear anyone else's thought and process on that, because I too, out of any of my friends, none of us are going, aren't you at BIPOC today? Look at us. No. But I also remember, like I said, when we started these entire conversations, I never used the word Black as much as I used it in these last 5 or 6 weeks. Why? Because I thought it was a given and I didn't think I needed to tell anybody I was Black. But now there's a craziness of having to self-identify. Not going to self-identify. I am who I am. But if we don't say, like people say, do we say Black? Do we say African American? And I say that depends on the person. That is personal. But BIPOC, I saw it in a client has a smaller company. I shouldn't say a smaller company, a different company. And they did not ask for my assistance in their letter commitment. And they published something within their magazine, and I saw BIPOC, and I wrote to them, I said, this is something you need to be aware of. I don't know where that came from or who decided to say it, but be aware that everyone is not accepting that. And so you're trying to be inclusive, where actually you're segregating us and putting us back into a box that you're comfortable with. And that is unacceptable, at least as far as I'm concerned. So if you want to be a champion or an advocate or an ally, when you see things like that, that is exactly what you should be calling out. And you should be saying, why can't we just say Blacks or Indigenous or people of color? And I'm not one to challenge, but I would love to challenge someone that does not look like me to say that to someone that looks like them. And what is that response? Because I'm just confused why, sorry, there's something on my screen that's driving me crazy. I'm just confused why it's just okay to take away the identity, but yet you want to be an ally. You don't want to actually call it what it is. Was there a comment in, I half read comments and half fighting with this thing right now. There we go. I saw a comment come in. Like, you want to read me what was in the chat? I feel that white people, you can unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Hey, I'm Kiana. To your point, I've seen white people say, I feel like people are typically used to saying African American, and because it's on the census as well. So if they're trying to be politically correct, which I understand and appreciate, but I've seen even in situations where a Black person says, I am Black, someone will respond African American and person of color. I'm like, the person just said that they were Black. So I'm like, they told you what they are. And then I have a question to you. Thank you very much, first of all, like Micah and Leslie. I wanted to know if you have to, I don't want to say educate a white person, but like educate them about their whiteness and understanding what that is and come to terms with that. Do you think that person is an ally if you have to take them through that process? Or do you think, because you're mentioning allies just kind of, they appear in a certain way, but if you have to bring them through a certain process, through some kind of joint education, are they really allies?
Sometimes, it depends on the person. Sometimes maybe yes, because their heart and their spirit's always been in a good place, and they've always done the work to be good at something in the process, but just doesn't know the next steps or not sure where to go, but have the resources to like, yep, I'm here. Sometimes you do have to take people, so it's not all, I say it's in the DNA, and I do believe it's in the DNA, but some people get to understand their DNA sooner than others. There's a difference of educating as, here's your privilege. Yes, you're white. Yes, I'm Black. All lives matter. The conversation is about Black lives. That's a different thing. There's different if we're going through the beginning of the steps, then you have to figure out your allyship on your own. If you are already there and you are like, listen, I want to do more. Here's my resources. This is what I'm doing. I'm in it for the cause. And you have seen them do even other work, like be in it for real. Then I may call you an ally because I see you focused and in it and want to be in it. And so I hope I don't give you my button, or back in the day, you're too young, where I gave you my high school jacket. Don't let me have to ask for it back when I see you not doing the right thing, But sometimes you do have to step on a limb and help them continue to grow. That's my thought. Mike, do you have something else to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I had the similar question as well too, because I've seen myself having conversations with certain people in the past couple of months, and I've been having this conversation with many people my entire life, and it's like you get to the point where if there's an ally fatigue, there's the allyship explanation fatigue that I have, where I'm at that point where if you don't get it now with all the resources that are available to you, like I don't have time for you at this point in time. And so there's been a few people in the last couple of months, like I'm always honest, that I cut off because I'm just like, I'm tired of explaining some of these simple things to you that you can literally go to a Wikipedia page or you can go to any article and surmise from it what's really going on. So
they're not allies, they're not champions, and they're not advocates because they haven't done their homework.
correct.
So that's very different things. So this is what I do for a living, is do education all day. So there's some people that get their feeling hurt along the way, and that's never my intention. My intention is to always be very transparent. Anyone knows you can ask me anything. I will answer it. If I don't know it, I will find out. If I don't know it, I'll say I don't know it. So it's my job to walk people through certain parts of it. It's not your job. It's not what you do for a living. And so it's not every speaking thing I said, it's not your Black and brown employees' responsibility to explain about race, as if it's not every disability person to constantly keep explaining what they need either. Like there's certain things that you can just Google and figure out the decent thing where to start. So in my book, he doesn't even know I wrote about him in my book. I don't want to tell him yet, but it's someone that I call an ally who doesn't even know he's an ally. Why? I have watched this person for the last 20 something years, and I have watched him stand up, and I have watched him way before George Floyd be on internet and say, I never knew my privilege until I'm watching what's happening. I don't have to tell my white sons what to do to watch out when they go out the door. I never think about them coming home. This is ridiculous. I'm going to educate. And he constantly educates. And he was on D&I committees before it was cool to join a committee. He's in it. He stood up and fought for me when I was the only Black dancer on the ship. There's been so many things that I have watched him through the years continue to grow and just be like, and call out his friends. I've seen him like unacceptable. That's not the proper term. And I'm like, well, look at there. That's an ally. It doesn't always have to be my personal ally. I think that's where we get confused as well. It's an ally for the cause, for the purpose, for the betterment of movement and growth. That's what allyship really is. It's not only a personal thing, because if you only have it for yourself, then that means you have to turn around and make sure you give it back. And allyship wants to see full change. They want to see movement. And they will do whatever it takes within that cause to keep it moving. And if they have the right people to plug in, they're going to make sure that they're connected. Right? That's what it is. But we're tired, and yes, we're tired of explaining. People are tired of having the conversation. But I tell people, you need to rest up, because we haven't really begun to have the conversation. The conversations, when you think about it, and then what I'm seeing in companies, the first conversation is we're all hurting. So it's more storytelling. Here's my story. Here's this. we haven't really start breaking down the conversation on what's the difference of champion, advocate, and ally. What is your privilege? What is your bias? Who comes into your house? Not to fix something. Who's guest in your house? What's your kids' friends look like? Which friends are allowed to come over to the house? What's their school? I'm just starting that journey with some companies. This is 6 weeks later. But those are the companies that called me or I had been working with before the world took a turn. And we're just getting to this phase. So when people call and ask me to speak, I'm like, are you sure? Because we have a lot of catching up to do. Are you ready to have the conversation? Because see, if you don't want to hear Black Lives Matter, if you still want to say all lives matter, if you want to say blue lives matter, and I don't want to turn it into all of that, then you're still not ready to have a conversation. If you say to me, I am part of this diversity and inclusion, I'm like, what month is it this month? LGBT was last month. That's great, but it's ADA month. Have you spoken to anyone? Have you set in for any disability? The city of New York is gives free courses. Have you educated yourself? So you just want to be an ally the way you want to be an ally, or a champion the way that you want to be a champion, but yet you tell me you do D&I. Unacceptable to me. So if you're going to jump in, you do have to educate yourself to the best of your ability to really be an ally. You know? Yes, Peter. I saw you coming close to me.
Hi. So for how I came into the knowledge of the BIPOC term was actually from the Theater Communications Group conference that was this year, and that came right after the initial protests and the awareness of George Floyd's death. And the Black and brown voices in the community, in our community, were the ones that asked us, our general theater community, to use that term to highlight Black and Indigenous people instead of just saying POC. And that was the Black and brown voices that asked for us to adopt that term. And since then, I've included myself in the conversations in Black Theater United, the Broadway Advocacy Coalition, and I am continually doing the Crip Camp series throughout the summer, which all center around Black and brown voices. And I don't know if there's any person so far that has asked not to be referred to as a BIPOC word, to say that was offensive to them. And I would love to question that with the community, if that is actually offensive to some people, because until you said that, I didn't even realize that might be not the right term for some, because not everybody feels the same way. But if someone says, for me, that they would like to be called something just like your preferred pronoun, you should respect that and call people by their chosen name and how they identify. I think that's just the basic thing. So that's just those are just some of the conversations I've been a part of, and other voices that not everybody else has been a part of. And I'm delighted to hear.
I would love to hear. I love to hear when you ask them what they say. Please come back with that information, because it's always going to be. This is why these conversations happen, because you're going to have a huge group that say no, and you may have another group that say yes. But at the end of the day, you have to identify. How about saying hi? What's your name again? How would you like to be identified? I did a speaking engagement earlier today, and they had my pronouns, but they never asked me what my pronouns were. And so she had them right. And then as we're on with the executive team, she goes, "Oh, is there anything else you want to change?" And the first thing was like, "Wow, you didn't even ask me." And I almost, wanted to be that, I'll just change it just to mess with her. But I was like, 10 minutes before the speaking engagement, I'm gonna leave it alone. But I did say something to her later, like, never assume. I think that's part of the issue. It's just like the conversation we had, was it last week, blackish and mixes? Don't assume you know what someone is. Um, what was that? I saw blackish guy. So, it's what, ask someone how they want to be identified, and then you move from there. Yes.
I mean, just to add to it, I think what happens is that the collective group, well, outside of that collective group, let's just put it like that, people want to automatically classify and group people together. So they come up with these names when we're all individuals, whereas Leslie wants to be called one thing, I prefer to be called Black. Nothing else aside from being Black. I don't care about African American. I don't care about anything else. I am Black. And so I think what happens is with these pronouns and everything else that come to describe a group is that everyone wants to point this finger and put people in a group so they can try to understand them or try to surmise what their viewpoints are based upon either
Level.
yes. And so I think it shouldn't be a task to go and ask everyone or every subsection of group what they want to be called. I think simply just call people by their names and not try to put people into groups, but literally just say, hey, Leslie, what are your thoughts today on this? And not have Leslie be, okay, she's the Black woman of color. Let's know what her thoughts are on this. So that's just my 2 cents in it to answer to your question, Peter.
Well, and what was crazy, someone looked on my site and they said, well, I wanted to hire you, but I didn't see a Muslim woman. I said, well, number one, you're incorrect. Because they do have a Muslim woman. Well, she's not wearing a hijab. And I said, that's not enough for me to identify how she is. I didn't hire someone because I hired people for their talent and their skill, and they wanted to be involved with the company and their expertise and their life. That's how I hired someone. If I was going to do central casting, that's a different conversation, and I would have cast everyone. She goes, well, I don't know. That still bothers me. I said, well, then I'm not the best agency for you. But she was so stuck on the perception of how she wanted that Muslim person to look or to be. And so again, when you're identifying, and that's why even this whole champion, advocate, and ally, that's why I'm saying you can't, so maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you can identify yourself as an ally. You want to say you're an ally, but then you can't be tired of it then. So that, then look, I'm like, if we're self-identifying, then somebody wants to call themselves an ally, but then you need to do all the steps to be an ally then. That's my thing. If you self-identify however you need to self-identify, what bothered me about this whole thing was the fact that how everyone's just saying how tired they are already. And that they marched and that they put out statements and they took off Juneteenth and they put on a black box and, oh, I'm trying to hire someone. What more do you want? And so maybe that's the conversation next week. What exactly are we saying we want or need? Because clearly, if you're tired from being an ally, you're tired for trying to think, and then therefore you're going to give what you think we just want. And that's not acceptable either.
Sorry to interrupt. Just want to add something there as well. And maybe this is probably like a whole nother discussion and conversation, but you were using the words like, what do we want and everything else. And I think that's one of the crux of it is that groups try to put people in other groups and then have a spokesperson for that group. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of hard when we're putting people in as individuals, we're putting people in their groups. And I'll give an example to that. The Black Lives Matter mural that's in front of Trump Tower here, the last people who threw things on it were 2 Black women, and Christian Black women is what they were. And so I know how the media played it, at least the articles that I read about the situation, as if they were speaking for a lot of Black people and their thoughts, you know? And so I think we get, as a society, we get into trouble when we're constantly speaking as we's, and which is kind of, and I don't know, it's kind of juxtaposition, because we shouldn't be individuals. We shouldn't speak as individuals, but it's kind of hard when we're like lumping in people together, and some people just choose not to, don't want to be included in that group. You know what I mean? The same
So
as saying those people over there. Like, I don't want to be included with those people over there. So yeah, just a statement.
So, you know, I have a thing about they, them, and those, because that's what we usually get, they, them, and those. I think it needs to be we and us. I didn't say who the we was, and I meant we collectively here in these boxes today. I didn't say who the we is, but the we has to be. It just can't be those that look like you or sound like you. The we has to be those that are fighting for the same cause. Because see, I need a we that can get to the C-suite. I need a we that can cut a check to sit there and understand what I'm trying to do. You know, if I'm trying to build programs and trying to do things. So there has to be a collective we of thoughtfulness on this journey. Because when we stop saying we and we stop saying us, it becomes I. And folks go out for themselves, and we all know that. Well, it works for me. I don't care if it doesn't work for them. So as a society, we have to be with a collective focus of where you're trying to make the changes. Okay, so I need a group of we that are like-minded for a cause of betterment. And if part of the we doesn't look like me, I'm okay with that if they are there in their right spirit to move it forward. Okay? Because we don't do any of this alone. Let's be realistic. Now, I may not, I don't need to maybe hear all the comparisons of stories. You know how one person says this and then we gotta up a story. I don't need to up a story. Your individual experience is just that. So I don't need to understand it, but I will always respect it. And that's how we become a we. And until we take that time to realize that and stop trying to fight it and figure out who can I get on the right team of movement for the betterment of most, because I'm never going to say all, things will not change. We're in a point of society now where we're being attempted to be so separated and segmented, whether it's politics or whether it's color or, okay, you're the Black Christians over there, but you like Trump, so the rest of the Black folks are not going to mess with you. Listen, you do what you need to do. You don't speak for me. There's a lot of backstory with that. But if this is how you want to have your moment, that's fine. You know how I'm going to have mine? I'm going to sit in these boxes and speak to these companies and be very raw and honest about me being Black and you being white and how we need to figure this out to move forward. So sometimes we get a little caught up in wanting to defend our identity or self of movement to our detriment of going, oh, we need to start playing chess and stop playing checkers. How do we make these moves so that they are systemic policy moves? And then how do we get people that look like us in those places? And we can't do that if we're all trying to stay within our lane. I don't have a lane. My lane is where I think I can be the best service of added value to that cause. And if you're wondering why I'm in the room, I will be the first one to call it. You are wondering why I'm standing here, aren't you? Ain't that something? I call it out to them because my right is to be in that room. Because in that room, there's a betterment for a we movement. And if I have to be the I in the room at the moment, my job is to make sure that there's a we in the room the next time. And that's how you build allyship. That's how you know who your champion is. Because sometimes your champion, your advocate, and your ally may not look like you. And you have to be open enough to realize when those doors are opening. And then be prepared to step through those doors. So I found out yesterday I had 2 allies I had no idea I had. I knew they were champions, but they came through on something. And all I could say was thank you. Yes.
Hey, Leslie, we do have a question from Amanda. So Amanda, you can unmute your mic.
Interesting conversation as usual. So I just want to chime in really quickly because, as you know, Leslie, we've been talking to some folks about a few things, and the pull up or put up or shut up challenge for a lot of these brands and a lot of different things, different movements that are happening right now. The one thing I wanted to say is those that are already active allies won't be tired because it's embedded in their personal ethics already. I think the space where you start to feel like it's tiresome, it may be because this is not the norm for them. And the struggle is if they feel like they're doing enough not to be judged or seen as abusing their privilege. And comes the struggle, because just as you mentioned, Leslie, with working with a bunch of people that are already allies, already standing up in the room for, Black people, people of color, Indigenous, LGBTQ, people who are really doing this every day don't need to call themselves an ally. They do this every day. This is what they do. But, there's also that space where I've had plenty of people, white people and Asian people and other people who have come to me and say, Amanda, you know what? I'm concerned that I'm not doing enough. What can we do? How do we move forward without it seeming like lip service, without it seeming like we're doing too much? And then we'll think we're doing too much and maybe we're doing too little. How do we really become allies? And I think that's the main question for a lot of people, at least for people who have come to me asking about doing. And I'm just like, okay, well, this has to be a part of your fabric. This can't be just about you posting 100 Black Lives Matters on Instagram. No. Are you speaking up for and I wanted to talk about BIPOC as well. First of all, can I just say this really quickly?
Yes.
A lot of people thought
like I'm going to stop you.
That BIPOC was bisexual people of color. Okay, there's a lot of people who thought that's what that term was. Okay, let's be clear. It was a term that came
Peter. You just lost Peter, Amanda. You need to turn your camera on. You just lost Peter.
I'm just saying, listen, all my kids know what I'm talking about. There was this whole conversation that all my kids came to me and said, Amanda, what is happening with this BIPOC situation? I'm not clear. Okay, so to clarify, the term came from Toronto. It was something that the media created to be an overarching type of group of people so they wouldn't have to keep saying Black, Indigenous, people of color, period. But the problem is that as it struck to social media, people started using the term for individuals. Wrong, wrong, and wrong again. That's not what this is. Okay, there is no BIPOC. I mean, there may be some people who, we got all sorts of mixtures going on, but that's not what it was, because people have asked about this too. And hopefully that clarifies for anybody that's on the call with what that is.
But in other words, just don't use it.
Right, exactly. I mean, really, it was used for some seminars, some media stuff, things like that. But really, as us everyday people, we don't need to be walking around talking about, oh, hey, BIPOC, what's happening? No, that's not what this is. Okay?
Amanda, you're the best. No, absolutely. I know. I agree with you. I think it's crazy. I say when I put it in my speeches, I'm like, I'm begging you to stop. I don't usually ask people this, but I'm just begging you to stop. Just call it what it is. Because when we live in New York, when we are all going out, 9 out of 10, what do you say? What are you wearing? What do we say half the time? Oh, something black, right?
Yeah.
We're quick to, what color heels you gonna put on? Just my cute little black ones. Oh, I have a little black dress. I'm good. I'm gonna wear my black suit. But now put Black lives and matter together, and that whole that means a whole nother thing, and folks can't take it. So yeah, it is a disrespect, I feel, for each of the categories, because it's just too easy to lump them all in.
Yeah, and I think as allies, period, if that's, what you consider yourself, I think at the end of the day, it needs to be a fabric of your being, period. No matter what type of ally you are, Black people, LGBTQ, whatever, at the end of the day, it is just a part of your moral compass. And if you feel like, you have to constantly, thump the flag, so to speak, then you have to start asking yourself, what is making you uncomfortable? Because that's clearly the reason why you have to determine that you are in fact an ally. Thank you,
If you have
guys.
to, thank you, Miss Amanda. If you have to break it out, I agree with you. If you have to break it out, if you're saying I am, I am, I am, then you need to figure out who you are in that process. Why is that so important for you to let everyone know? Because if you're doing the work, people see the work. And I believe that in just showing up to work every day. I don't need to sit and tell everybody every project that I did. If you don't know the work, and you're in an office setting, if you don't know the work that I've accomplished, now there's times you have to be like, nah, that was mine. But if I have to say every time I go to a meeting, I won that award last year. I won that award last year. Okay, that's great. What you do this year? What is that? So it's something to think about. It's something when I think when someone says it to you next time and you see it, what I hope is that you will even take a step back and go, huh, what does that mean? What does that mean to the bigger picture of whatever they're saying they're an ally for?
Hi, can I ask a question, Leslie? This is Kiana. Hi. So when I saw the event, on LinkedIn when Micah posted it, I thought, like, how long did this even occur for people to get like fatigue? Because this was like, for me, it was a blink of an eye, right? I was like, oh, why people are actually paying attention now? That's cool, because I've been around them like in predominant white spaces since high school, and really liberal environments too. I grew up in the DC area, super liberal, and they have people I've been around, have been in school with and work, haven't really cared, but they're polite, right? They're very polite. But I was curious to know, like, where were people saying in this, or in what spaces were they expressing their fatigue? Because I was just genuinely confused. I was like, this just started like yesterday in my eyes as a Black person. How are you guys tired? You're not doing any real work. You're not having to live in Black skin every day. Or like when I walk in, people might question my intelligence or if I should be there. Even at my university, my alma mater, if I should be in certain spaces, like I paid to be here. Like I could draw a lot of money. Don't question me. But I still felt like I had to validate myself in certain spaces. But I was curious to know where people were saying that, and what, like, was it like in certain digital communities, or just I guess everything now is virtual, so it was digital to some extent. But I was curious to know.
Because I'm not going out this box anytime soon. So it's been like probably the last 3 weeks, believe it or not. So it was quite quick. And I just start paying attention to articles start being written about it. When I was on calls, some CEOs were like, okay, well, what's the quick fix? And I was like, quick fix? No, no. And okay, just let's see, tell me the steps. Maybe if I could tell you the steps, we would have taken the steps 400 years ago. Like, they didn't want to go through the process. They were just like, well, we just need to get this done. You know, because we've been talking about this for a moment now. Have you? Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, no. You're going to have to be tired. And then there was quite a few articles, and I don't remember, Kim, and I don't know if you remember it, where it came out, and there was a whole article on ally fatigue. But before the world took a turn, there was an article that came out on diversity fatigue and how everyone was getting tired of having to have this conversation. Why can't we just all get along? And that's when all of a sudden you start seeing they were taking the word inclusion out of job listings and putting that word belonging in. Because we should all belong, we've all belonged together. And so I pay attention to the job listings and the shift of between the news, being in boxes, having conversations with CEOs, having conversations with just folks along the way, and hearing, oh my God, we have so much to do. There's so much to do, and we don't know how we're ever going to get it done. It's not like, what? And like, you know, we're just tired of trying to figure it all out. And I was like, and so those words just kept coming into my head. And then when I started seeing the articles, I was like, oh, y'all really tired. But we got dressed to go down the yellow brick road looking for a heart. We didn't even start skipping down the road yet. And we're already tired. We just started talking about, yo, can we plan this trip?
And just to add to that, I don't think the road is even built yet. Like, we literally haven't even started the collective conversation in society about some of the issues that's having. We're just bringing it to attention that these things happen. The conversations haven't even started yet. So it's interesting how people are tired already when the conversation hasn't started.
It's that, or people, this is what I get. Oh, well, if I can just call and pick your brain since I'm the new DEI person. And I'm like, and they're like, you know, I really want to champion this in my office. I get that a lot. I'm championing this. Like, I'm an ally for this. And I just love to pick your brain because I'm not sure what to do.
Well, I think.
Yes, go ahead, Kim.
Well, I think what the road now is littered with is HR personnel, because they've just kind of thrown it on them because they don't want to have to deal with it. So now they're throwing all of the HR people underneath the bus because they want to get it done. And now the HR people are tired because they got too much stuff to do, including COVID and dealing with people's, employee assistance programs. So I think that's where the tiredness is coming from, because they just wanted HR just to deal with it and just get it done. And HR people are like, this is not in my wheelhouse. You need to hire somebody because I got enough on my plate. But I think that's where the tiredness is coming in. And then when you go to the CEOs, they actually don't want to deal with it. And like you said, it always comes to the heart of the person. Like you said, I've had allies who didn't know me that well. I mean, one of the developers that I work with, she would always be in my corner. And they had some of the toughest buildings to work on. She would never go against me. Like, the first time, I never even met her. We had a conversation over the phone, and we worked on contracts together. And I was like, well, this is what we did. We did actually a hybrid, some of your stuff, some of our stuff. And this is what she's like, okay, really? She's like, awesome. That was it. From then on, I never had to ask her for anything. She was always in the room. When we had meetings, she's like, Kim, what do you think? That's it. I think that's where we are now. It's in the heart of the person, and also they need to take responsibility, that you can't just lay it all on the Black people to give you definitions and tell you what to do. You got to know what you want to do. And some people are not going to change. This is it. This is who they are. It's in the fabric of their being. They're not going to change. Some people, they want to come along. They want to be able to say, you know what, I want you to come over to dinner. Or either, like, let me tell you, some of the things that you and I talk about all the time, if they could even get some people just to say good morning to us on the block, if they could even introduce you to them when we do come out again and they start having company functions again, if they would even introduce you to their spouse without turning their back when they see you. or acting like you're not there. So it's the work that has to be done, but a lot of it is like we have to come to the acceptance factor. Some people are not going to change. Some people, I think that they want to, and they're going to do the work. Like what you're doing, Leslie, deep bow to you, girl, because I'm always like, oh, I love it, love it, love it. But I know I couldn't do it.
Look, part of it is, what I always say, what's in your bag? And, that's probably a conversation we should have. What do you bring? What are you bringing to the table? And it's on both sides to understand how you can be a champion, an ally, or an advocate. Who are you? What's your makeup? And that is, some people are going to do it. Some people are not going to do it. There are people that are doing it and you'll never know it. That doors open and you don't know how you got in that room, but you're in that room. You know what? It's up to us not to always keep asking, how did I get here? But I'm here and now, well, how can I make sure that I stay here and keep moving? And not just stay, keep moving, because we get real comfortable within that room too. So, I celebrate those that are champions. I celebrate those that are advocates. And I celebrate those that are allies. And if you call yourself that, I think you need to revisit what that really means to you. If you need that applause, that may be a different type of ally. I always thank you all for joining. We can go on forever and ever. We will be back next Wednesday. I'm playing around with a couple different topics. If there's something that's burning on your heart and your soul, you want to have a conversation about, please put it in the chat before we leave, because I'm open. This is a conversation for all of us. As you know, these are turned into podcasts, Visibility Unlimited. So if you like to hear yourself, I'm going to say, I almost told my age. I'm going to say on the radio. If you want to hear yourself in our podcast, please join us. As always, I say thank you and see you next week.
I hope you enjoyed this episode and you will join us again soon at Visibility Unlimited. Thank you.